I want to talk a little bit about the current policy. At least it's not official, but sort of created by several millions of African Americans here that we as African Americans have to support the same political party as a whole or as a vast majority, which you see currently in the numbers of the Democratic Party's black votes are getting roughly 90% with every election. And I never got that. I never really could quite understand, at least after reading, a little bit about the history of the Democratic Party, why they were able to secure those votes and with such ease. So, people are obviously aware of what, at least a good chunk of people are aware of the, you know, prior white supremacist Democrats that existed around the time of Lincoln and his cabinet back in the 1860s and, during the Civil War, all of that. I'm not going to give a history lesson because, like I said, you can look that stuff up yourself. I really just, want that to be kept in mind because what I'm trying to get at here is that there are a lot of blacks who believe in the switch, which is basically the idea that Republicans took on the ideas of Democrats, and Democrats took on the ideas of Republicans, which, you know, are apparently making the Democrats sort of like modern Republicans of the 1860s, but at the same time, something else entirely, to where some of these people still won't acknowledge that the president who fed you was a Republican. And, that's not to say that all blacks must vote for one party, which is what I'm trying to get at here and kind of dispel. But just know it wasn't a Democrat. I'm just saying that because it comes back into play later on with what I'm trying to argue or what I'm trying to get at. So that's the story of their emancipation with Lincoln in 1865, or was it 1863? I can't remember the year. I'm sorry, it's been a while. But the point is, he still signed that in the law, and so with that being signed in the law, um, you know, slavery was essentially over within that section of America. Obviously, the Confederate States were they were up and at it and trying to keep that going, but he put an end to it. Now, for that reason, I always kind of have this reluctance to really criticize Lincoln because I really like that policy. It's given me a lot of opportunities that my ancestors did not have, and it just irritates me to an extent when I hear some of the claims that he was racist. Now, I don't, I'm not going to say, oh, I know the man inside and out, and I know him way better than you do, but I certainly, spend a bit of time going over this stuff and give it attention that I think most people wouldn't. And so for that reason, I kind of have this thing where it's like, oh, you were in this class and they said that. Well, I read these books and they said otherwise. Just I feel as if I'm more inclined to do my own independent thinking and I guess research than people who take a class and after read one book would conclude. Just go, oh, well, it says he's racist in this book, must be accurate. And that's just always, and I know they'll say, oh, well, they only fed the slaves to assist in the Civil War. Okay, but, they could have put them right back. And they didn't. So I've never been of that belief. And if that makes me ignorant, then so be it. I can't accept the notion or the idea as fact that he was this person who was just thought blacks were so inferior that he tried giving them equal rights. It just never made sense to me. Um, but that's just my opinion on that. So as we get a little further down into the decades and Reconstruction and blacks getting the right to vote, they're obviously helped by Ulysses S. Grant, who also was Republican. Just the basic idea I'm getting at right now is that a lot of a lot of the rights for blacks that really are similar to the rights for whites, which are basic human rights, did not come into effect until they were assisted by Republican presidents. Now, if we kind of just fast forward past the Ku Klux Klan, all that, just start heading into the 1960s, which they were still around at that point. But you obviously had JFK assisting, and then LBJ with the whole Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, which for that reason alone he should be remembered because that really was the beginning of an easier time for blacks to vote, or just them not having to go through the same hula hoops that they had to before, the grandfather clause and all that nonsense. So that was his contribution to African Americans, in my opinion. And for that reason, I look at him in a favorable light. Obviously for other things too, but I felt as if he was trying to do something for blacks, as well as Kennedy. And I think it's really funny. Conservatives that I'll talk to generally agree on Kennedy. They always say, yeah, he was the guy for everybody. Yep, yep, yep. I don't know if that's just because of nostalgia or they feel this, kind of reluctance to talk negatively about. I like to believe they genuinely believe that, but they always diss LBJ. They're like, oh, that was just for show and tell. I was like, well, show and tell worked. Um, and going into my own political affiliation, I see myself as an independent. I have liberal, or you could argue democratic viewpoints, even though I don't really associate my views. Like I don't go, oh well, I think abortion should be legal. I'm a Democrat. It's just I always thought of it as just kind of my own individual stances that you could kind of say can be found in the core values of this party, because you also have pro-life Democrats. They disagree on abortion but agree on everything else. And so I'm kind of conflicted on, or at least for one point, on what party I would be in, because I'm not a fan of the just the exploitation of blacks that I feel that at least the hierarchy of the Democratic Party has shown. Um, Obviously you have that DNC Mothers of the Movement speech, and it's all that stuff just bugs me because it advances the same narrative that I get tired of hearing over and over again. If you're black in this country, you're, not only are you at a disadvantage, but you're at one that, you can't handle on your own. You're going to need democratic assistance. And I just always thought that was their way of basically trying to scare me into voting for them. Because, if you get that racist Republican in there, they're not going to do anything for anybody. And it really irritates me, again, because I don't believe that type of rhetoric. But also, in a way, I do sort of agree with the whole, Republican ideal of, self-reliance. And I think welfare should still be around, but just, I'm talking about, if a person wants to make it better, wants to better themselves, they go out, get a job, they go to school, all of that. I feel as if that's something that could be accomplished by just about anybody, unless they have some type of physical or mental ailment. And in that case, I will, subscribe more to democratic belief of assisting people with government or some kind of subsidy, just because they're at a disadvantage in the state of being, whether it's, again, physical or mental. So I definitely would back them on that. Take me for example. I'm well bodied. I don't have any mental illnesses. I don't have any physical illnesses, and for that reason, I don't really see myself as someone that needs assistance of a political party or, government or, some official to get farther in life. I don't expect them to pay my bills or anything. I really believe more in the idea that just go to school, try your hardest, you pass your classes, you get into, some really good school, whatever, you'll make it. And that's always been my belief, that if you just give it everything you have and, don't mess around, you study for your stuff, you take notes, all of that, you can do it. I've done that. That's how I graduated from high school, in my opinion. That I didn't back down from trying to, you know, carry out my task. But that's besides the point. So, getting into the last topic of this video, because I feel as if I'm starting to drag this out. It's just, that's just my opinion on that issue. I'm sorry if it took up a whole minute, but you go and you watch some of the African Americans that are typically affiliated with movements such as Black Lives Matter and, you know, Black Panthers, whatever, they typically will go to Democrats or will be registered Democrats or however you want to spin it. And my opinion on just political party identification, I'm going to make one thing clear. I am not advocating that, all right, well, everybody was a Democrat before, let's switch over to the other side and, join the Republicans. Well, not as an entirety. So my idea of what should be done, at least for African Americans to ensure that they have some kind of place at the table in the policies of both parties, would be to split the vote. So you'd have 50% go out and vote for Trump and 50% go out and vote for Clinton when election day came. That's 2 months away. This September 1st. So, you obviously have some time to think about things and make it happen. But I just have this, feeling that it won't happen. And that's kind of what bugs me, that you have so many blacks that really haven't caught on to the idea that part of the reason Republicans don't appeal to, I guess, us as a whole is because there's no reason for them to. The Democrats do that race baiting thing and, posing with a black person here and there, buying some chicken out of the ghetto because they want to show. And it's not all Democrats. I don't even think it's the majority of them. It's just the hierarchy ones and the ones that I think run in those kind of, the more higher profile politicians that usually do that. So, they have to appeal to you, or they try to appeal to you because they know they need your votes, and you will give them if they just jump through a couple of hoops. It's like those officers, they had that community policing where they were talking about the officers go out and they'll dance with these, different minorities because they want to be considered allies, and the only way they feel is if they can be considered, friends of the black community or the Hispanic community, whichever community they're in, is if they go out and they perform these, just extraneous tasks like dancing with little kids that aren't even 10. So they wouldn't dance them for any other reason than to just seem like they're cool with blacks or with that community or of the people that they're policing. So that's kind of how I feel that Democrats, at least a good chunk of them, only do this stuff because they want those votes. That's obviously the whole point of campaigning, but I get so fed up when people really look at Clinton, and I'm very glad that a lot of people have woken up to the idea that all she is someone who just uses others. We're not even going to get into Benghazi or anything because that would take too much time and that'll be off topic. But all you see is someone who will pose for a picture with a black, go and talk about she has hot sauce in her bag or whatever to appeal to us. It's just it's almost like a spoof because I really couldn't believe she would say that when it happened on the radio. And so ever since that event, I think more people have realized that she is the prime example of what we would call someone who just will do whatever it takes to make it seem as if she is a person that is on our side as a whole, and it's not the case. And that's sort of how I feel about her. But you don't see Trump really. He actually, he went out and said, what do you have to lose by voting for me? You really have nothing to lose because a lot of blacks are conservative. They're, against abortion. They're for the death penalty. They are as scared of Muslims as everybody else, even though I think that's ridiculous. But there are some who are that way, and they still will vote for Clinton. And I thought that was the craziest thing in the world. That if you are so much in love with Trump's policies, why don't you just support him? Because it's Trump? Again, I'm by no means supporter of his. I don't advocate, if you have one person is going to vote for Clinton, vote for him because then he might win. But there's no reason why you should say, okay, well, this person is that person. And even though I agree with them on all these issues, I can't support them. Part of the reason that the Republicans distanced themselves from him is that they knew that he had positions that they didn't agree with. And so as a result, they completely, wanted to stay away from that and make sure that it wasn't the case when the candidates in other offices that were lower branch or lower tier ran. So that's that. But getting into my main, just the last thing I want to say, um, my idea is to have at least 40% vote for Republicans. Again, I know it's not going to happen. This is just what I think should happen if blacks really want to get a stake at the other table too. They should have half vote for Republicans, half vote for Democrats. In doing that, I can almost say with certainty that Republicans will be surprised. They will see us as a voting bloc. I like I just call it bright for no reason. They will see us as a voting bloc that should be supported, that needs to be supported, that needs to be, given paid attention to, and seen as people that can be reached out to instead of just these closed-minded, you know, people that they don't have to pay any attention to because they can't change their mind any way they go about it. I really think that's the best way to go, and if they do that, we'll see a completely different side of that party. But that's just my opinion. So thank you for watching and have a good day.